If you're looking to get lean, even if you have 30% body fat or more, I'm going to share with you 7 underrated tips that'll accelerate fat loss. Most people miss these tips and it prevents them from getting the results they desire. I'm going to lay it all out for you, and the great part about these tips, they're easy to follow and you'll get fast results. You'll notice a difference within days. The first underrated tip is to get your steps each day. Oh yeah, Ben, I already heard that. Yeah, walking is good for you. Yes, and let me explain why, what it does for fat loss, and the target you want to hit in terms of steps each day. And I'm going to share some variations to get even better results with walking and the right time and proper way to do the walking for fat loss. Walking impacts your metabolism and your overall health in several ways. It's not just about fat loss, although it'll help with fat loss. Physical activity also helps with your cardiovascular system, your lymphatic system, and it helps to prevent disease. There was a really fascinating study, a meta-analysis done by the European Society of Cardiology, along with the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And this study highlights the significant health benefits of walking for just 5,000 to 7,000 steps per day. That's not even a lot of steps, but most people, the average person, gets about 2,000 to 3,000 steps per day. That's pretty sedentary. And you've heard the term, sitting is the new smoking. That is spot on. This study, which analyzed data from 15 studies involving nearly 50,000 participants, found that walking at least 7,000 steps daily can reduce risk of all-cause mortality by 50 to 70% compared to those who walked fewer steps. Another recent study highlighted the fact that if you don't get enough physical activity and steps, it's going to be really hard to burn fat. The Journal of Physiology published this study titled "Physical Inactivity Causes Exercise Resistance of Fat Metabolism." Here's what the study showed. Physical inactivity is the 4th leading cause of death in the world. It is associated with a myriad of diseases and premature death. 2 contributing factors are postprandial lipidemia, which accelerates the buildup of plaque in your arteries called atherosclerosis, and impaired whole body fat oxidation, which contributes to obesity. That means when you don't get enough activity, your body is not in fat burning mode, it's in fat storage mode. At the bottom here of the study, it said, recommendations regarding the amount of moderate to vigorous exercises needed for health should factor in the amount of background activity, but they suggest at least 8,000 steps is necessary to avoid this exercise resistance. And you could see the illustration of this graphic here on inactivity and what that does to impair fat metabolism after exercise. It's a vicious loop. So the goal here is for you to hit 8,000 steps every single day. That is the first underrated tip to do it. But there's some cool ways to even get more results with your steps. I'll share with you not just the goal of hitting 8,000 steps, I'm gonna also share with you right now 3 ways to use walking to accelerate fat loss and get lean. The first one is to walk at the right time. You want to make sure you time your walks with your meals. This will give you the biggest fat loss benefits. Now, if this is unrealistic to walk after every meal, choose the biggest meal of the day and go for about a 15 to 20 minute walk after that meal. Here's why. The goal is to optimize postprandial glucose levels, meaning your blood sugar levels after you eat a meal. The higher your blood sugar levels after eating, the faster you store fat. This is because more insulin is pumped out by your pancreas to shuttle that glucose out of the bloodstream into your cells. The longer insulin is around and the more insulin is produced, the more fat you store. Postprandial glucose is the measurement of this process. The higher your blood sugars after eating, the more fat you're storing. With walking right after a meal, your metabolism is able to clear this glucose faster and less insulin is also produced as well, getting you back into a fat burning state much faster than if you did not go for that walk. Now the goal is to go for a 15-minute walk. If you can get it up to 30 minutes, you'll get even more results. I want you to check out this study on what is happening here. It's activating the GLUT4 transporters, which takes sugar out of the bloodstream and puts it into your glycogen stores, your liver and your muscle cells. This study showed the effects of postprandial walking on glucose response after meals with different characteristics. Here's what it showed. Postprandial brisk walking substantially reduced the glucose peak in both studies with no significant differences across conditions. When evaluating the glycemic response throughout the 2 hours post-meal, postprandial walking was more effective after consuming a lower carbohydrate meal, and even similarly, even effective after a higher carbohydrate meal or a mixed meal. Although higher glucose values were observed with the higher glucose meal, which was a carbohydrate drink, our findings show that a 30-minute postprandial brisk walking session improves the glycemic response after meals with different carbohydrate content and macronutrient composition, with implications for postprandial exercise prescription in daily life scenarios. The second way to get more from your steps is to create walking adaptations. Walking adaptations forces your body to adapt to different changes and patterns. This confuses your body and your muscles, which accelerates fat burning. Every great fitness coach, every great personal trainer understands this principle. It's the reason why that workout video, home workout video, P90X, was so successful. It creates metabolic adaptation, muscle confusion. It all relates to a principle called hormesis. What the heck is hormesis? When you learn this principle, it will change everything you think about when it comes to health and fat loss. Now, hormesis is defined as a phenomenon in which a harmful substance, think of that as a stressor, gives stimulating and beneficial effects to living organisms, humans, when the quantity of the harmful substance is small. All right, what exactly does that mean? Now, I know some of you are listening on the podcast, so I'll explain the graphic I'm going to show here, but check out this graphic. You can see exactly how hormesis works as it relates to exercise. Remember, exercise is a stress. Doesn't mean it's bad for you unless you do too much. So check out the graphic here. When you find the right balance of stress from your exercise, you are in what's called the hormetic zone. That is that green graph going up there. It's the hormetic zone. That's where we want to be. That's where we see reactive oxygen species, ROS, decrease. We see antioxidants increase. We also see activity of antioxidant enzymes increase, oxidative damage increase, and resistance to oxidative stress increase. Now, if you do too little exercise or too standard of a walk or too much, you fall out of that hormetic zone. So you can see too little is on the orange side of the graph, too much is on the right side. So if you do too much walking, too much exercise, you can see ROS goes up, antioxidants go down. So it's pretty much the opposite effect. You are inflamed instead of de-inflamed. So we want to stay in this hormetic zone. We can apply this principle of stress to your steps. So how do we achieve these walking adaptations and stay in that zone of hormesis? Here's how you're going to do it. First way is walking on an incline treadmill or up and down hills. That's a wonderful way to create adaptation. There are under the desk treadmills that you can buy that you can step on and walk on an incline or a decline. Another way is walking backward or sideways. It's a great way to strengthen your knees as well. And you might be walking in your neighborhood backwards and your neighbor might be saying, "What are you doing?" And you could explain the principle of hormesis and adaptation, but that's another way to do it. Walking outside in the elements is a great way to create adaptation as well. Bonus points when you do this during sunrise and during sunset because it optimizes your circadian rhythm. You could also choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator. I lived in an apartment building for many years on the 4th floor and on the 3rd floor different times, and I took the stairs pretty much 95% of the time. You could also, instead of driving all around the parking lot to find the closest parking spot, park farther and walk your butt to the store and walk your butt back to the car. It all adds up, my friend. The third step, which kind of picks up on the second way to increase the results of walking, is to increase the intensity of your walks. Most people, when they walk at a slow, casual pace that doesn't really elevate the metabolism to burn enough calories. When you increase your speed, you create an energy demand on the body which forces your body to increase its metabolic rate. A good walking pace to achieve this is to try the talking and walking test. If your intensity is at an optimal level for fat loss, you should be somewhat out of breath as you talk. Not completely, but you should have some difficulty walking and talking. By adding a dumbbell in each hand, you could also create a higher demand and intensity for more fat burning. So walk around the neighborhood with the dumbbell, with your baby, with your dog, whatever you can do to add weights to your walk. The extra load of weight forces your body to adapt, which as we established is very important for getting fat loss results. So that's the first underrated tip. Get at least 8,000 steps a day, add those variations to your steps, and you're gonna be on the right track. You could use different trackers to count your steps. You could simply download an app on your phone, have it on you, it'll count your steps. You can use an Apple Watch, a Fitbit. I use this ring called the Oura ring. There's also Whoop bands and other trackers, but make sure you track it. Don't guess, test. The second underrated tip for getting lean is to make sure you get your required protein intake. Protein is arguably the most important macronutrient as it relates to longevity and fat loss. Approximately 40% of Americans don't get enough protein. This has been hypothesized to have led to the obesity crisis. It's called the protein leverage hypothesis, and it states that humans will eat as many calories, even from junk food, to get enough protein for their day. Now, ideally, we want to get enough protein not from junk food, but from quality sources, and I'll share the best way, how much to get, and all that. But first, let me explain how this relates to fat loss. Lack of protein in the diet can lead to both weight gain and weight loss resistance through the following key mechanisms. The first one is reduced satiety and increased caloric intake. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it helps you feel full and satisfied after eating. When a diet is low in protein, you are likely to feel hungrier and may overeat. In particular, you're going to eat high-calorie, low-nutrient foods, leading to weight gain. This increased appetite is often due to the lack of sufficient signals to the brain that tell you you're full. So when you eat enough protein, it activates hormones like cholecystokinin, leptin, peptide YY, which tell your brain and your stomach you're full. No need to go to the pantry and eat the Oreos or eat the ice cream. Second way protein helps, or I should say a deficiency in protein leads to weight gain, is muscle loss and metabolic rate decline. Protein is essential for maintaining muscle mass. When you don't consume enough protein, your body may break down muscle tissue for energy, especially during caloric restriction or fasting. Muscle mass is a key determinant for your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, which is the number of calories your body burns at rest, sitting on the couch, watching TV. As muscle mass decreases, your BMR decreases, making it easier to gain weight and harder to lose it, contributing to weight loss resistance. Then we see blood sugar fluctuations with not enough protein. Protein helps regulate blood sugar levels by slowing down the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates. A lack of protein can lead to more significant fluctuations in blood sugar, causing spikes and crashes. These fluctuations can lead to increased cravings for sugary and high carbohydrate foods, leading to overeating and weight gain. Next, we see increased fat storage when you don't hit your protein target. When protein intake is low, the body may prioritize fat storing versus fat burning. Protein has a higher thermic effect of food than carbohydrates and fat, meaning it requires more energy to digest and metabolize. With less protein, your body may burn fewer calories during digestion, leading to increased fat storage and reduced fat loss. This could also lead to impaired hormonal function. Protein is critical for the production and regulation of hormones that control hunger, metabolism, and fat storage, such as insulin, ghrelin, and leptin. Inadequate protein intake can disrupt the balance of these hormones, leading to increased hunger, decreased satiety, and the tendency to store more fat. Then this leads to leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone produced by fat cells that signals to the brain you are full when you have enough energy stored. Protein plays a role in maintaining leptin sensitivity. When protein intake is low, you may develop leptin resistance, where the brain does not receive or respond to the leptin signals properly. This can result in constant feelings of hunger and difficulty losing weight, even when calorie intake is controlled. This then triggers altered fat and carbohydrate metabolism. Protein helps the body efficiently metabolize fats and carbohydrates. Without enough protein, the body's ability to process these macronutrients is impaired, potentially leading to increased fat storage and difficulty burning fat for energy. Now that you understand protein is critical for fat loss, let's discuss how to get that protein. How much protein should you consume each day? What's your target? I'm gonna give you 2 rules to follow here. First rule, this is the easy way. Get at least 40 grams of protein from each of your meals. If you have 3 meals per day, then that'll be 120 grams of protein, 40 grams at each meal. If you have 2 meals a day, that'll mean 80 grams of protein, but at least 40 grams. That'll create muscle protein synthesis. Ideally, you wanna get 1 gram of protein for each pound of your ideal body weight. This is a little bit more difficult to achieve, but this would be the optimal way to get your protein. So what exactly does that mean? That means if you're watching this and you weigh 210 pounds, but you have extra weight, your goal weight that you wanna hit, that target body weight, let's say in this example, is 170. but you weigh 210, so you have 40 pounds you want to lose. But you know your goal weight is 170, that means you want to aim to get 170 grams of protein every single day. You could use free apps to track your protein to make sure you're hitting the target. I like Chronometer. You can get it for free over at chronometer.com/KETOKAMP. There is a difference though between animal-based protein and plant-based protein. Animal-based protein is far superior. It's bioavailable, complete protein with all the essential amino acids you want. Plant protein is not. So ideally you want to go with animal protein, but if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you could still get results with plant-based protein. It just might take you some more time. Can you use a protein shake to hit your target? The answer is yes. Just make sure it's a high quality protein shake. I'm personally not a fan of plant-based proteins, and I'm not a fan of most whey proteins. It's very insulinogenic, but I love beef protein isolate. And I use a company called 𝙃𝙀𝘼 Foods, and they have a 100% grass-fed, grass-finished protein powder from beef isolate, and they have different flavors. It tastes great, and you can check them out over at 𝙃𝙀𝑝foods.com/benazadi. When you go to that link, or click the link in the notes below, you get 20% off your 𝙃𝙀 Prime Protein. Let's move on to the third underrated tip for fat loss. That's going to be getting 90 minutes of delta deep sleep every night. What does that mean? When you're asleep at night, you go through three main stages of sleep. You have light sleep, you have REM sleep, and you have delta deep sleep. Light sleep has some benefits. You're in a relaxed state. REM sleep has benefits. It's called rapid eye movement sleep because it helps with short-term memory to process that for long-term memory, so it helps with memory and function. Deep sleep is where most of your fat-burning hormones are turned on and activated. You burn more fat during deep sleep than at the gym. And you want to get at least 90 minutes of deep sleep every single night. How do you do that? I'm going to share my favorite sleep tips for you that'll get you more deep sleep. The first tip is to drink banana tea before bed. Banana tea is nature's NyQuil. It helps you feel relaxed. If you have a racing mind at night, it'll help calm the mind and calm the brain, help you get ready for bed. Here's how you make banana tea. You grab an organic banana, leave the peel on, cut the ends of the banana, then cut the banana in half, the peel still on, put both halves into a pot of water, 2 cups of water, and boil that water until the peel of the banana starts to turn brown. What's gonna happen is the peel of the banana has more of these incredible micronutrients like potassium and magnesium, more than the actual banana itself, which will seep into the water. Then you just drink that banana tea and it'll help calm you down. You could just put the actual banana in the freezer or the fridge. You're not eating it, you're just drinking the banana tea. That's banana tea. I call it nature's NyQuil. I got it from Dr. Michael Bruce, a friend of mine. The second way to increase your deep sleep is to limit, or I should say avoid, food at least 3 hours before bed. The closer you eat to bed, the less deep sleep and less fat burning you're going to get. It's one of the biggest fat loss mistakes people make. Not to mention, it's a fast way to raise inflammation and age you faster when you eat right before bed. When you give your body energy by eating food and then go to bed, there's no activity or energy expenditure on the food you just consumed. So your metabolism stores all of it as fat. It also raises your body temperature. And if you want to get deep sleep, your body temperature needs to drop 1 degree Fahrenheit. This will prevent that from happening, so you'll get minimal deep sleep, wake up feeling hungry and groggy, just not a good idea. So make sure you're not eating anything at least 3 hours before bed. If you go to bed at 11 p.m., kitchen's to be closed by 8 p.m. The third way to get more deep sleep is to take a very important nutrient that achieves more deep sleep. This is a one-of-a-kind product, and this nutrient is called magnesium, responsible for over 600 enzymatic properties in your body. Healthy levels of magnesium help to buffer cortisol, help a healthy production of GABA, which is a relaxing neurotransmitter, and helps you get deep sleep. It puts the brakes on your body's nervous system, helping you calm down and soothe, promoting a better quality of life. But you have to get the right kind of magnesium. The truth is, most magnesium supplements you'll find in health stores uses cheap synthetic forms. And since they are not full spectrum, they won't help your magnesium deficiency or do much to help with deep sleep. My favorite is from Magnesium Breakthrough, and it's a company called Bioptimizers that make it. They use 7 unique forms of magnesium that really help bump up your deep sleep. Simply take 2 capsules before bed. If you weigh over 200 pounds, you could take 3 capsules before bed. I personally take 2. I weigh 170 pounds. Go to bioptimizers.com/KETOKAMP. Use the coupon code KETOKAMP10. You'll get 10% off your bottle. Next, you also want to make your bedroom cold and dark. In order to get into a deep delta sleep of fat burning, that bedroom needs to be around 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that's cold, but that's what the studies suggest. And you want to make sure it's as dark as possible. Turn off the alarm clock or the TV or anything that's stimulating your body by raising cortisol. That's going to be artificial light. Put on blackout curtains or even wear a sleep mask, dark as possible, and really cold bedroom. It's going to bump up your deep sleep. And the final way here to get more deep sleep is to mouth tape. Now, this may sound crazy, but I do this every single night. When you breathe through your mouth at night, it lowers nitric oxide and it doesn't allow you to get into a parasympathetic, deep delta fat burning sleep state. You want to breathe through your nostrils. Most people will breathe through their mouth. How do you know you're a mouth breather? You wake up in the morning and your mouth is dry. That's a sign right there. If you snore, that's a sign right there as well. So with a nice mouth tape, what happens is it forces you to breathe through your nostrils. It activates the parasympathetic tone, raises nitric oxide, helps you get more deep sleep. I use a company called Somnifix and their mouth tape, and I'll drop a link for them down below. How do you know how much deep sleep you're getting? This goes back to the tip on the steps. Don't guess, test. Oura Ring tracks it, Apple Watch, Fitbit, Whoop bands. Don't guess, test. Let's see how much deep sleep you're getting. The goal is to get 90 minutes each night for fat burning. Okay, let's move on to the next underrated method. It's the fourth method here, and that's going to be strength training. We already established the importance of protein. Protein is going to help with this tip because it's going to help you build lean muscle mass. I'm not saying you should become a bodybuilder or a CrossFitter. I'm saying you should have healthy amounts of lean muscle. Lean muscle is your body's longevity organ. When you have enough lean muscle, a lot of cool things happen. Number one, it raises your basal metabolic rate, so you naturally burn more calories. Number two, that muscle mass acts like a sponge to absorb glucose after you eat a meal. And it really helps with that postprandial glucose response that we spoke about, helping you get into a fat burning state much faster after eating a meal. Now, compound movements are king. Compound movements are strength training movements that recruit multiple joints at the same time. For example, this is going to be push-ups or bench press. You're activating your biceps, triceps, your chest, your back, all at the same time. Another example of this is the shoulder press. Another example are squats, lunges. We want these compound movements versus isolated movements. Isolated movements are fine for vanity's sake, but it's not going to get you the biggest bang for your buck for muscle mass. Isolated movements include dumbbell curls, leg extensions. These are just isolating certain muscle groups. So go with the king of movements, and that's going to be compound movements. They're also called primal movements. You want to aim to do 3 to 4 strength training workouts each week with about 30 to 45 minutes at each workout. Look, too much is not a good thing. We talked about hormesis. You don't want to do 6 workouts a week or 7 workouts a week. The sweet spot for most people is 3 to 4. And I want to respect those who are watching or listening to this that have different activity levels. Start with where you're at, but the goal is to get strength training on a weekly basis. You could even start with using your body weight. Okay, the fifth underrated method for fat loss is my favorite supplement in the world called vitamin G. This study on vitamin G took 120 people and measured their cortisol levels, their stress hormone, and measured their IgA levels, their immune system, at the start and conclusion of this vitamin G workshop. So as cortisol goes up, a chemical called IgA, which protects your immune system, goes down. Cortisol also increases fat storage. It's called the cortisol belly. So vitamin G has been shown to buffer cortisol. The study showed after taking 120 people, they measured their cortisol and IgA levels at the start and conclusion of the vitamin G workshop. And here's what the study showed. We discovered at the conclusion of the event that cortisol levels of our participants dropped by 3 standard deviations, and their IgA levels shot up on average from 52.5 to 86. They noted that these are significant, measurable changes. Vitamin G also activates your parasympathetic nervous system, important for fat loss. It has been shown to increase 1,200 chemical reactions in the body and the brain when you take it instantaneously. This study from UC Davis showed that people who take vitamin G have 16% lower diastolic blood pressure and 10% lower systolic blood pressure compared to those who don't take vitamin G. The same study showed that people who take vitamin G have between 9 to 13% lower levels of blood sugar, A1C, the hemoglobin A1C, versus those who didn't take vitamin G. So where can you get vitamin G? You're probably already on Amazon looking for vitamin G supplements. Here's the thing. There's no link for vitamin G. I don't have a coupon code with vitamin G. Vitamin G is vitamin gratitude. Those are real studies on gratitude. What you appreciate appreciates. What you think about you bring about. The more you feed into the things you're grateful for, the more you're going to have things to be grateful for. All of those studies are on gratitude. Gratitude is not an intellectual exercise. Gratitude is an emotional exercise. So the underrated tip here for fat loss is to get your vitamin G in the morning when your subconscious mind is most impressionable, and get your vitamin G before bed. You simply want to choose 3 people in your life or 3 moments in your life and spend 1 minute on each in the morning. Total of 3 minutes, and do the same thing at night. Now at night, I think about 3 things during the day that happen that I have vitamin G for, and I spend 1 minute on each of those 3 things. That's your vitamin G protocol. There's no upper limit. It's free. Go get it today. As a matter of fact, for those watching on YouTube but not listening on the podcast, in the comment section below, let's practice vitamin G right now. What do you have vitamin G gratitude for today? Put a comment down below. Let's move on to the 6th underrated tip for fat loss, and that's going to be having coffee and MCT oil, caprylic acid, in the morning. Coffee can be a really powerful fat burning agent if you get the right coffee, and I'll explain that in a second. Coffee's most powerful polyphenol is chlorogenic acid, called CGA. It tells your body's fat cells to burn their fatty acids for fuel. This is the same mechanism that statin drugs use to lower your cholesterol without the potential side effects. CGA cuts cravings, suppresses appetite, and activates the liver's ability to produce bile, aiding in detoxifying your cells and breaking down dietary fat. It helps the liver to process fats and glucose more efficiently by lowering triglyceride levels and stabilizing blood sugars. The effect of this blood sugar balancing act decreases your risk of metabolic syndrome and diabetes while inhibiting the growth of new fat cells. Working together with caffeine, CGA helps to reduce belly fat by increasing the number of cells that are burned for energy. It even works while you're sleeping. This Norwegian study found that women who drank high CGA coffee dropped 3 times more weight than those who consumed lower CGA brews. So here's how you buy the right coffee that's loaded with CGA. First of all, you want to make sure your coffee is organic and has been tested for contaminants like mold and pesticides. You also want to make sure it's a medium roast as opposed to a dark roast. Once the beans are roasted beyond medium, they've lost a whopping 75% of their fat burning and fat blasting polyphenols. My favorite brand of coffee that I drink all the time for many years is Purity Coffee. They're organic. It's tested for pesticides and it's free of any of those contaminants. They have a medium roast and it tastes delicious. If you go to KETOKAMPcoffee.com and use the coupon code KETOKAMP, you'll get 15% off your coffee beans from Purity. I'll drop that link down below. One more tip here on coffee for you coffee drinkers out there. You want to make sure you have your coffee 90 minutes after waking up, not before. Waiting 90 minutes to have your cup of coffee has several benefits. Number one, it allows your body to naturally decrease cortisol levels, which are typically high upon waking. Consuming caffeine too early can further elevate cortisol, leading to increased stress and anxiety. Cortisol is also super powerful and more powerful than caffeine, so you're not going to really get the biggest bang for your buck from that caffeine when cortisol is already high. By delaying caffeine intake, you help to maintain a more balanced cortisol rhythm, enhancing alertness naturally. Additionally, this practice can prevent the midday energy crash often associated with early caffeine consumption, promoting sustained energy levels throughout the entire day. Now, I mentioned to add MCT oil to that cup of coffee, specifically C8 called caprylic acid. Caprylic acid offers remarkable benefits for metabolism and something called mitochondrial uncoupling. To make matters short here, when we look at the studies, and I'll put all the studies down below for you in the notes, caprylic acid allows your body to produce the most ketones. When you produce ketones, it raises your basal metabolic rate because it creates more cellular energy, and it lowers inflammation through a process called mitochondrial uncoupling. Caprylic acid, MCT oil, delivers nutrients right into your mitochondria. It's like a shuttle bus for energy. It bypasses digestion. Your liver doesn't have to produce bile to break it down. It's a source of energy right into your mitochondria, so it increases your metabolism and lowers inflammation. So add 1 tablespoon of caprylic acid MCT oil to that cup of coffee. Make sure you get your MCT oil from an organic source in a glass bottle. I'll drop a link for the one I recommend, along with the studies mentioning how beneficial MCT oil is for fat loss. The next underrated tip for fat loss is heat and cold therapy. Let's first discuss cold therapy. What do I mean by cold therapy? This could be a cold shower as long as it gets under 59 degrees Fahrenheit. This could mean cryotherapy, a cold plunge, or jumping into a cold body of water. The primary benefit of cold therapy as it relates to fat loss lies in its ability to stimulate brown fat oxidation. Unlike white fat, which stores energy, brown fat burns calories to generate heat, thereby increasing your metabolic rate. This process is called thermogenesis, and it can lead to improved fat loss and better weight management. It is considered a promising agent in the fight against the obesity epidemic. One of the biggest activators of brown fat is cold exposure. One study of brown fat found that people with brown fat burned more calories. The study's author, Dr. Florian Kiefer, said, quote, "This data improves our understanding of how brown fat works in humans. We found that individuals with active brown fat burned more calories than those without." Additionally, cold exposure triggers a significant release of epinephrine, which is adrenaline, and norepinephrine, which is noradrenaline, in the brain and in the body. These neurochemicals make us feel alert and focused. Cold causes their levels to remain elevated for quite some time, and their ongoing effect after the exposure is to increase your level of energy and focus, which helps you have a more productive day. So how much cold should you get? Remember, going back to the principle of hormesis, more is not better. The study suggests if you could accumulate 11 minutes total each week of cold therapy, you'll get the benefits of the browning of fat, the fat loss, the dopamine increase, the alertness, and all the benefits we want with cold exposure. So 11 minutes means within a 7-day period. That could mean 2 minutes, and you kind of add it up until you get to 11 minutes, or you could do 4 minutes at a time. Depends on how seasoned you are at cold exposure, but overall, 11 minutes per week. If you live in a location where your pipes in your house or apartment get cold enough, you can take a cold shower. Start with warm, end with cold. Again, it needs to be 59 degrees Fahrenheit or less to get these effects. Then we have heat exposure. This could be a sauna, a hot bath, or infrared therapy. Heat therapy induces a state of hyperthermia that triggers a range of physiological responses. One of the primary benefits is the enhancement of circulation through a process called vasodilation, where your blood vessels open up, delivering oxygen and nutrients to cells and tissues. This improves overall function, and especially metabolic function. Heat therapy stimulates the release of heat shock proteins, which play a critical role in protecting cells from stress and promoting cellular repair. This process can enhance overall metabolic function and resilience. There are also detoxification benefits from heat therapy as you sweat and eliminate a lot of toxins that cause fat storage. For the best results, use the sauna in a semi-fasted state. Probably best thing to do in the morning. Ensure you're getting enough water and electrolytes. Research indicates that spending around 20 minutes per session in a sauna, totaling about 60 to 90 minutes per week, is the sweet spot to get all the benefits that we're talking about here. I personally use a Sunlighten infrared sauna. It's beautiful, it does the job. It's very comfortable to sit in. It has a TV screen. So that's one option. You could also find hotels and spas that have sauna. If you want to check out the one I have from Sunlighten, go to the link down below and use the coupon code KETOKAMP or mention Ben Azadi in KETOKAMP, and you can get up to $600 off your sauna. And by the way, in terms of the plunge that we spoke about earlier, I have a plunge as well from plunge.com. We also have a coupon code, which is KETOKAMP, to get a few $100s off your plunge as well. I'll drop all that in the notes down below. So there you have it. Those are the 7 underrated tips for you to burn more fat. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna love a recent video I just published on a 30-day protocol to lose up to 20 pounds. I give you a step-by-step breakdown on how to achieve this. The best part about this protocol, you don't have to suffer, you don't have to count calories, you don't have to rely on any restrictive dieting. It will be easy. After I personally went from being physically obese at 250 pounds to losing over 80 pounds in 9 months and going from 34% body fat to 6% body fat,